4th and goal. They give it to Mostert. Touchdown Miami. He scores again.
Ocho, when you get 70s hung on you, that's telling you your entire organization from top to bottom isn't good enough. The person that picks the talent, the people that coach the talent itself isn't good enough.
Just 2 seasons ago, nobody feared these Denver Broncos. Russell Wilson had reduced the offense to a misery, and this defense couldn't stop a nosebleed. Conceding 70 points to the Miami Dolphins served as a pretty notable rock bottom in what was a dismal 2023 season. But thankfully, when things go as bad as that, changes simply have to be made.
I think how we're coaching certain things obviously makes a difference. Every year it changes, scheme-wise. It's about the players you have and fitting your scheme to the players. So those things have changed, but I won't share a lot.
And now, 2 years later, this version of the Broncos defense is looking absolutely terrifying and is clearly capable of powering them to a Super Bowl. So, let's find out how the Denver Broncos built the most terrifying defense in the NFL. To really understand just how far this unit has come, we need to go back and look at how bad they were in 2023. They were the 27th ranked unit that year, giving up a ridiculous 137.1 yards per game on the ground, which placed them 30th in that category. Obviously, when you're being run over so easily on the ground, it is impossible to gain any control over games. But to make it worse, Denver were also bottom 4 in pressure rate and 22nd against the pass. This 2023 campaign was actually the first of the Vance Joseph era as defensive coordinator. That horrendous display could have easily lost him his job, but Denver decided to keep hold of him, essentially choosing to believe that his bad output was a result of him trying to marry his defensive scheme with his predecessors, Ejiro Evero. Denver's front office gave him another chance to run his own scheme properly. And guess what happened? His unit jumped up 24 places from being the 27th ranked defense in 2023 to the 3rd best defense in 2024. And the craziest thing about it all is that it didn't take a massive influx of new talent to help make it happen. Vance Joseph put his head down and figured out how he could best utilize the guys he had on the roster, of which there were plenty thanks to some good personnel moves by the front office. Aside from the Russell Wilson trade, of course. Obviously, for the purposes of this video, we're just going to look at the defensive side of the ball. And we're going to kick things off in 2021, when Pat Surtain and Jonathan Cooper joined the Denver Broncos. Pat Surtain, as the reigning Defensive Player of the Year, barely needs an introduction. He is as good as they come at the cornerback position, completely locking down one side of the field, defending passes, and buying more time for his teammates on the defensive line to get home. He has 2 first-team All-Pro selections and 4 Pro Bowls to his name already, and is clearly going to be a nightmare for years to come. It is already an incredible resume for Pat Surtain, but he wasn't the only huge success story to come from this 2021 draft. Jonathan Cooper had to wait all the way until the 7th round to hear his name called, but he has looked like anything but a 7th rounder since he joined the team. He was essentially the first of this vaunted pass rushing group to arrive, and the fact that he came in the 7th round is incredible. He broke out for the first time in 2023, in his 3rd season with the team, posting 8.5 sacks, 1 forced fumble, 2 fumble recoveries, and 1 interception. That then turned into 10.5 sacks in 2024 and another 8 in 2025, with Cooper picking up a $60 million contract extension in the process. Not bad for a 7th round pick. 1 year later, he received a running mate in the form of Nick Bonitto. That 2022 draft was the first of 2 consecutive drafts in which Denver would not have a 1st round draft pick. But that didn't stop George Paton from finding 1st round caliber talent. Bonitto has progressed brilliantly since joining the Broncos, posting a rock solid 8 sacks in 2023 before properly breaking out in 2024, with 13.5 sacks, 2 forced fumble, and 1 interception, which was returned for a 71-yard touchdown. This eruption was one of the main reasons the Denver Broncos were able to make such a leap in 2024, which we will come back to in more detail later. On top of the Bonitto arrival, Denver found some more stellar value further down the draft board. In fact, Jaquan McMillan was so far down the draft board that he didn't even get drafted. He signed with the Denver Broncos as an undrafted free agent, only to go on to become a key figure on this defense, and ultimately being their third highest rated starter on defense in 2025, according to PFF. Now, by 2023, the impact of the Russell Wilson trade was really being felt, with Denver ultimately making just 5 picks. One of these was cornerback Riley Moss, who joined the team in the 3rd round. As the cornerback tasked with playing opposite one of the best players in the NFL in Pat Surtain, you know you're going to be challenged with a ton of targets, and while Moss has certainly given up his fair share of yards and penalties, there is no doubt he is a talented player. With Denver only having a small pool of 2023 draft picks to use, George Paton had to dip into the free agency market to find his team some more help. And this is where he found one of the most impactful players on the team today, in the form of Zach Allen. Allen had worked with Joseph in Arizona, where he got to learn from one of the very best in the business, JJ Watt. His last season as a Cardinal saw him post a career-best 5.5 sacks from the interior of the defensive line. And after signing a 3-year deal with the Broncos in 2023, he's only gotten better and better. His 8.5 sacks were huge for the team in 2024, before logging another impressive season in 2025 to earn himself a massive 4-year, $102 million deal. So, we have just gone over 3 pretty great years of talent acquisition: Pat Surtain, Jonathan Cooper, Nick Bonitto and Riley Moss in the draft, and Zach Allen in free agency. But despite all of these arrivals, Denver still managed to put out that horrendous display in 2023. So, some more adjustments were needed, both tactical and personnel. Remember, those 2023 Broncos particularly struggled against the run, ranking 30th in the NFL and conceding 137 yards per game on the ground. So naturally, that became an area of priority over the 2024 offseason. Malcolm Roach came in as a rotational piece on the interior of the defensive line within a free agent haul that also included linebacker Cody Barton and safety Brandon Jones. Roach had experience working with Sean Payton in New Orleans, and Barton and Jones in particular had a reputation for being good against the run. Then, to add even more firepower to the defensive line, George Paton sent a 6th-round pick to the New York Jets for defensive end John Franklin Myers. In the draft, linebacker Jonah Ellis arrived in round 3, in what was an offensive-heavy 2024 class, which, of course, also included Bo Nix. On the surface, none of those moves look particularly revolutionary, but in practice, they made a hell of a difference for these Denver Broncos. All of a sudden, they were one of the hardest teams in the NFL to run the ball against, jumping from 30th in the NFL all the way up to 3rd, conceding just 96.4 yards per game on the ground. Not only that, but this defensive line was a force of nature from a pass rushing perspective. Their 63 sacks comfortably led the NFL, with the Baltimore Ravens landing in 2nd with 54. Nick Bonitto, Jonathan Cooper, Zach Allen and John Franklin Myers all posted career bests in this incredible season, led of course by the epic breakout with his 13.5 sacks and 16 tackles for loss. Of course, the addition of 3 key defensive players certainly helped turn things around for these Denver Broncos, but that still doesn't explain how this unit, made up of almost entirely the same players, managed to go from being the 27th best defense in 2023 to the 3rd best defense in 2024. This is where Vance Joseph comes into play. He decided to simplify things a lot for his unit in 2024, deploying a one-gap scheme and asking his players to be more aggressive. He knew that the talent the Denver Broncos had acquired over recent years was far better than they were being credited for, and he went about finding ways to create as many one-on-one situations for his guys, and of course, they repaid him. Riley Moss's development allowed him to play more man coverage, and his talent and depth on the D-line allowed him to cook up some crazy blitzes and create as much confusion as possible for quarterbacks. That, combined with the epic breakouts of players like Nick Bonitto and Pat Surtain, is how you get to the terrifying unit that we have seen over the 2024 and 2025 seasons. It is perfect defense, with sticky coverage pairing up with lethal pass rush to create an absolute nightmare for quarterbacks. In 2024, that equated to the 3rd fewest points conceded, a league-leading 63 sacks, and the 3rd fewest rushing yards conceded. That, alongside the arrival of Bo Nix, helped set up a surprisingly good 2024 season for Denver, in which they completely exceeded expectations and made the playoffs, in a year in which everyone thought they would be one of the worst teams in the NFL, largely because of the dead money that they took on for Russell Wilson's departure. So with that season now under their belt, 2025 was an opportunity to put on the finishing touches and really stamp home their advantage as the league's best defense. Jahdae Barron was the team's first selection in the 2025 NFL Draft, joining a secondary that had already been bolstered by the arrival of safety Talanoa Hufanga in free agency. His 106 tackles are the second most on the team, and his 6 tackles for loss are tied for third, to go along with 2 sacks, 11 pass breakups, and 1 forced fumble. Physicality is the name of the game for Hufanga, just like it is for Dre Greenlaw, another former 49er who came over in free agency. Greenlaw has slotted in nicely alongside the team's leading tackler Alex Singleton, who has had a brilliant 2025 season, especially considering he had to have mid-season surgery to remove testicular cancer. With the 2 new arrivals from San Francisco, the Broncos look as scary as ever on defense. They are giving up just 91.1 yards per game on the ground, which ranks second best in the NFL, to go along with a 57.84% completion rate against the pass, which is also second best in the NFL. On top of that, their 4.5 yards conceded per play is the very best in the NFL. And, just like they did last year, there is nobody who comes close to this unit in terms of sack production, with the Denver Broncos 68 leading the rest of the league by miles. This is clearly a unit capable of doing some serious damage, and I expect them to be at their absolute best in the playoffs, especially after this week of rest. But how far can they go? Let me know in the comments.